Mike here. In this video, I'm going to put to rest once and for all, forever, undebunkable, unrefutable, that our sun is not 93 million miles away. Now I'm going to use shadows, the same types of shadows that our physical heliocentric consensus sciences use to determine the Earth has curvature and the size of the Earth. And so shadows are approved sciences by these people, and they should have no problems with this. Now what you're looking at is a sunset over the ocean, and the sun ray is played across the water all the way across, meeting the observer. And the fascinating thing is, this is only available to the one observing the sun. If someone else were standing maybe 20 feet away from this person, they would see their own sun ray, available to just them. Why is this? Searching physics forums and trying to research this, I ran into a wall. Now there's some ideas, but these ideas just generated more questions. And so it was never answered fully. What you're seeing here is the ray of sun coming across the water and lighting the water itself. And I have an idea about this, because this sun ray is only available to the observer. It's not available to the person standing next to them. They have their own sun ray. We live in a three-dimensional world, yet we're fourth-dimensional beings. We can only see in 3D. However, we can detect things in the fourth dimension. And the things we detect in the fourth dimension is only observable to us. You know, if you think about somebody that sees a demonic spirit and they're the only ones that see the spirit, that's because that spirit is in another dimension, only observable to the person that it's displaying itself to. The same with our sun. Our sun moves across Earth and resets and moves across again because our Earth is encased in dimensional space. I'll show you what I did, how I modeled this. It is amazing. Stay tuned. Here's the setup. I have a point light that is only 50 centimeters in size, and these pylons here are only 1 meter in diameter. So my sun is really tiny for our scene, and that's simply because in our real world, the sun is really small compared to the open skies above us. And I have a piece of geometry here that I use to measure the sun distance as I move the sun back to see what angle of shadows is left by these pylons. In the first test I did, I rendered the sun very close to the pylons. And so my light, my point light, is almost right next to them. Now you can see the shadows, how they are angled because, you know, the light's so close. Okay, now if the sun is 93 million miles away, people claim that these shadows or the rays of sun should come in at 90 degrees, and this is what I was testing. I wanted to see just how far back we had to go before light actually becomes 90 degrees. Now, one thing very important to remember about light. Now, one thing to remember about light is that no matter what scale it is, no matter how far away it is, light is light is light. Still travels at the same speed, still responds the same way, still acts like light should behave. So if you take this little dollhouse lamp here and just increase the brightness greatly on it and set it somewhere, it's going to behave just like the sunlight. So as you can see here, the light is very close to my boxes or pylons, and we are getting a lot of angular shadows at the end of the pylons. That's simply because the light is tiny, it's giving off a lot of light, and where the edges of the pylons are, or the ends of the pylons, we will get angular shadows, and this was completely expected. I moved my light back 50 meters, and as you can see, the shadows are now not as angled. And that's because the farther away the light is, the more the shadows will form into a straight line. Here I moved the light back 773 meters. Now, notice those shadows on our pylons. They are almost 90 degrees or straight up and down. Almost. And the thing to remember about this light is on an inverse square. So the farther you move it back that's squared, it doesn't take very long before we are able to get our 90-degree shadows here. Here I set the light back a full 1601 meters. And as you notice from the 773 meters, there's very little change at this point. At the 1 mile mark, or 1601 meters, the shadows do finally come to straight lines or 90 degrees. Now keep in mind that my light is very, very tiny, only 50 centimeters in diameter. It's half the size in diameter as one of these pylons. It's really tiny. I just ramped the light levels up on it. And when we get to 1 mile away, we have 90-degree shadows. Keep that in mind, because we're going to look at the real sun next, and what you see will be amazing. Here we are, airplane view above the clouds. Now there's still some clouds above the airplane, so possibly the sun is being filtered through the clouds above. We're going to fix that here in a moment. But do you see the angle of the shadows of the clouds themselves on top of the cloud layer? Yes. If the sun's 93 million miles away, that shouldn't be so. This next picture I swiped from Mr. Thrive and Survive. His link will be in the description. Thank you, brother. Now, looking at this picture, you see the spot of the sun on top of the cloud layer. There's no cloud layer above, much like the spot you saw in my model rendering. I don't need to remind you that the sun being 93 million miles away should not be leaving a spot on the cloud layer. That's not possible. However, if you look closely at these shadows here, coming off the clouds, the shadows off the clouds have a greater angle to them than my light did at 773 meters away. Look at the angle of the shadows coming off the clouds on the side of the photograph. It's crazy. The sun has to be extremely close, and let's find out just how close. So here I've taken Photoshop and drew lines where the shadows were on the cloud layer. As you can see, the sun is the spot on that layer. And in the center, those lines should be relatively straight if the sun was even a little bit far away. However, even in the center, our lines start angling. So what I did in Photoshop is I took my rendered photo of where the sun was only 50 meters away from the pylons, and I overlaid it on the photo with the plane and the sun. And as you can see, the light away from the pylons at only 50 meters are producing more straight lines than what our real sun is, casting shadows on these clouds. Folks, that is crazy. So how is it the sun, some flat earthers claim, is 3,000 miles away, leaving shadows off these clouds that would suggest in a modeling program to only be 25 meters away? Absolutely makes no sense. But it is explainable because we are in a three-dimensional world and the sun is not in our dimension. Okay, the sun is not here with us. We can't get to the sun through means of rocket flight. We can't get to the sun because it's not where we are at. However, being fourth-dimensional beings, we can perceive things in the fourth dimension itself that is above us. Now, those are just terms of that people I work with like to think of Earth as. But in reality, Scripture is true, and God said the heaven, even the heavens, belong to the Lord, and the earth He gave to the children of man. Well, God's a spirit, and everything God owns above us is in that realm of the unseen, or what we call the realm of the spirit. So it's not magical. And what we're seeing now with CERN, who claims there to be many spatial dimensions and a fourth dimension where actual real gravity resides, conveniently, because we can't get to it and study it now. What they're saying is mimicking how Earth is created by our God. And we see this prevalent in movies, we see this prevalent in quantum sciences, of these alternate realities, these alternate universes, this new age mysticism and physics they are coming out with. And it's all based on Satan twisting how Earth really operates and functions according to Scripture. And I'm going to make some more videos on this, but this is the new narrative that is running now. There is science now claiming that space above is flat. Well, we knew that because it's dimensional. But they're slowly feeding this idea to the people. But not only feeding portals and flat space to the people, we have flat earthers claiming that the earth is a simulated environment and that we have holographic moons and all kinds of crazy things from our own crowd. Folks, this is headed, they're going to take what is true, what God created, and twist it into something satanic, something metaphysical, something where we can control reality somehow with our consciousness. And you've been warned. You've heard it here. This is Mike. Please like and subscribe.